Yo, pull up a chair, let the real talk begin. Faith on the table where the brothers lock in. Life gets heavy, but we stand our ground. Truth in the room when the circle comes round. No mask, no front, just real man here. Talking about faith through the doubt and the fear. From the grind of the week to the lessons we share. Welcome to the men's round table, pull up a chair. Men's round table series, step inside. Real men, real faith where the truths collide. Voices at the table where the stories get shared. Welcome to the men's round table, pull up a chair.
Welcome back to the Men's Roundtable Series Interview Spotlight. I'm your host, Mr. U. Wherever you are and however you're watching this show, thanks for making us part of your week. We're live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, of course. Please follow and subscribe to those places so you can stay in tune with us and what we're doing on this show. Now, if you heard a familiar name in the beginning of that, it's because we have a Men's Roundtable Series podcast that airs every Thursday night at 7 p.m. EST. That's our safe space we created for men to talk about men's issues. We have a panel that rotates every single week, different faces, different perspectives, but we always talk about the same thing, the things that are germane to men. So our audience today is primarily men. We're going to have somebody who can come in and kind of help us to speak to that audience today. He's a clinician for over 30 years across 6 countries, specializing in men's health, performance, and sexual function. He's the creator of Sexual Genius, a system that reframes sexual health and how to, function in your own body. Dr. Adam Kleinberg is here. Dr. Adam, how are you, man? Good to see you.
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Same here, brother. Glad to have you here, man. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into it because we got a limited amount of time and we got a lot to talk about. So as you already well know, you're very well versed in helping men deal with sexual functions and men's health. This is, I'll be honest, I'm not really a blusher, but it could happen because of what we're talking about. I haven't talked about this kind of thing on I think maybe on one show out of our 4 shows that it's happened in over 6 years. So
wow,
I'll make sure I use the right verbiage and not, overstep in any way. So forgive me for any kind of clunkiness, guys. Don't kill me in the comments. I'm new to this area of discussion. And it's open anyways. All right, so this is what you deal with. What got you into this line of work, man, and got you involved with helping men with this? What was it from a personal standpoint? Something you saw close to home? What was the reason why you decided to go this route?
Well, I've been a chiropractor by trade, for a long time, practicing for 26 years. And, I've seen that help men with, their, the issues that they might deal with, typically, ED. That would be sort of a nerve flow problem, right? Because the brain's in control of everything. And if there are blockages between the brain and, the male genitalia, then there's going to be potentially some issues there. But what I've also been very passionate about for a long time is I've been plant-based for nearly 35 years now.
Okay.
And typically, ED for men is a blood flow problem, right? And, what we're seeing very clearly now that the research is showing that it's typically animal products that are blocking up the vascular system and decreasing blood flow to different parts of the body, right? Not just the genitalia, but, it's kind of the same things that we're dealing with for a lot of lifestyle illnesses, so like heart disease and stroke and, all these different things that have to do with blood flow, type 2 diabetes as well. So it's been a passion of mine for a long time. I feel like I represent the demographic pretty well. I'll be 58 next month.
Wow, you look great.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Try to live the lifestyle and lead by example. Some other pillars of wellness for me have been meditation and fitness, of course, right? And so it's kind of trying to take these little lifestyle changes and helping men with these different pillars of wellness. The statistics are crazy as far as ED. There's not even the sexual side of it. It's just the physical health side of it, right? That statistically 53% of men 40 and over are dealing with some type of ED. That's 1 out of 2. It's no wonder every commercial that comes on any streaming platform is for Rougiette or, all these different, the little blue pill, the blue chew, the gold, it's getting crazy, so want to help, men, sort of get their masculinity back in a more natural way instead of having to deal with all of these poisonous drugs that can definitely lead to all kinds of other health problems and make men dependent on, needing that to be able to perform, for their ladies. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what inspired me to go in this direction.
No, I'm sure men they, around the world, I appreciate that you've done that for them. I think I might have lost a whole bunch of the male artists. We said no more meat.
Yeah, I know.
Like, so
We're
no
so
more.
mean. Men have been so
They already
meat
sold out.
centric, I grew up in New York City working in restaurants. And so like I loved it all. I ate it all. I couldn't wait to get my hands on a juicy steak. We used to go to Peter Luger's in Brooklyn, and
Come
we used to
on
go to
now, that's my
City
home.
Island
I know
for
about it now.
seafood. Yeah, so we had all our spots, whether it was for wings or ribs or seafood or steak. And
Pizza. Yeah.
yeah, of course I loved it all, grew up on it all. But then as I started to get older and even in my 20s, I kind of just wanted, I don't know, it's just a health seeker, from a young age. So things started to become more apparent to me. And as the research has started to back things up, we're in a different age now than, I was really first discovering this, more than 30 years ago.
Okay. There's one thing that I'm pretty sure most men that are listening to this show or going to watch it on replay, they probably have the same question. Let's just get down into it, man.
Sure.
As a man, if you were a lady, I'm pretty sure it'd be easier to digest, if you will. But as a man, how do you address things like blood flow and those kind of things with another man who, like we talked about on all of our men's content and podcasts, we deal with being transparent in some areas and being open and emotional. How I'm just throwing it up there. How are you selling that to another man? How?
I mean, I think that from personal experience, just seeing how looking at the statistics and being able to compare myself to those statistics, I mean, it's night and day.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate, with the ladies over my life, and I feel like there's been very, 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 very little change in my libido or my sexual competence, over my, 40 plus years of sexual experience. I mean, I'm not obviously the same man that I was when I was 16. I mean, it was nonstop crazy, and then even in my 20s and 30s, I'm a different man now. But the drive is still there, the libido is still there, the competence is still there. And then it's also teaching men to kind of, embrace their vulnerability with women. But I think that what it really boils down to is making small lifestyle changes a little bit at a time to regain not only your confidence psychologically, but your, prowess physically.
Okay.
I hope that answered your question.
Well, it does. It does. It just, I'm talking about more of the introductory part, like when somebody come to you or you're talking to them on a console, whatever it is.
Yeah.
How do you get them to be comfortable with the idea of discussing this with another man? You understand?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot easier for men to discuss it with other men than to discuss it with women. I mean, yeah, because they're identifying that we're in the same, we're playing the same game, right? We're in the same ballpark, right? When they're talking with a woman can only understand to such a degree because she doesn't have the same issues. She doesn't have the same feelings. She doesn't have the same level of, testosterone that's running through her body. She's not dealing with the same equipment. So, I think that there's only a certain level of understanding, but, if a man's looking for help, he's got to be willing to open up. And, I feel like I'm a very approachable person, very versatile, very empathetic, so we're not going to put anybody down. We're trying to lift them up. And I think if they know that from the get, that, hey, I'm dealing with somebody here who has lived this lifestyle a long time, is empathetic, has dedicated his life to helping people, and then it's just, trying to put them at ease in any way they can. And a lot of that comes down to just understanding their personality and understanding what their real desires are and what they're willing to do to make some change.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense to me. What's the biggest misconception that men have about their sexual health that you
Oh my goodness. I think that men are still under the assumption that they need me. to be healthy, that they need meat to be real men, you know?
You
And
ran up
there's, yeah, and there's this protein craze these days, right? Everybody's talking about protein. Starbucks has their protein drinks, and you know, Taco Bell and Chipotle, they're protein, protein, protein. Everything's protein, and it's crazy because this is all propaganda. It really is. Of course we need protein, but the building blocks of protein are amino acids. And what we really need is the proper amino acids for our bodies to build that protein, instead of thinking that we need to take in all this complete protein that comes along with a lot of nasty things, depending on what we're eating for that protein. Right. But it's also now the science is showing that we used to look at animal products and we used to identify sort of the negative things about those animal products as saturated fat, cholesterol, and then, some of the other things that go into those animals like pesticides, herbicides, antibiotics, and all this nasty stuff, including their diet, right? And we used to identify those as the things that were affecting our health. But what science is showing now is that it's the actual animal proteins themselves, the protein itself, that is causing chronic inflammation in the vascular system of human beings and the digestive system. But we're talking about blood flow. So if we focus on the vascular system, and there's a lot of great research out there to back it up, and a lot of great documentaries. One I like to point to the most is The Game Changers. Not sure if you heard of it.
No, I have not.
But yeah, it's been out there for about 10 years. It was executive produced by James Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jackie Chan. And Schwarzenegger's even, talks about the propaganda of the meat industry, and that we don't need meat to be men and we don't need meat to be strong, which is cool, kind of coming from, an icon of bodybuilding,
Yeah.
So to see this about face, from a lot of people, and then also the movie's really about human performance or athletic performance, right? They're not getting into all of the other nasty stuff, animal rights, and the empathy, and they're not trying to elicit that. They're trying to show you that you're going to perform better as an athlete or as a human on a plant-based diet versus an animal-based diet. They even do this one really cool study with these 3 young male athletes, where one night they eat a meat-based burrito, and the next night they eat a plant-based burrito, and they use the urologist to measure the girth of the male genitalia overnight, and also the duration of erections overnight. And the results are exponentially different. One guy had a tenfold increase in his erections overnight from just eating the plant-based diet that one night. And so I think as we also measure our sexual competence, or the ability to maintain or to gain and maintain an erection, as a general marker of our overall health, we start to understand that that's just a symptom. It's not the actual problem, right? The symptom is typically blood flow. And, with 53% of men 40 and over dealing with some kind of erectile dysfunction, I mean, that's an epidemic. That's an epidemic, and something like 20 or 25% of men under 40 as well. That sounds a little crazy to me. 1 out of 2 men over 40, and 1 out of 4 men under 40. 1 out of 3 in general are dealing with some type of ED. So there's got to be some type of general overall cause, and a huge part of that is our diet and what we're putting in our bodies.
That other part might have got some of my listeners back that left after you said no meat. So maybe I got them back. So where does testosterone fit into the conversation at this point now?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different markers dietarily that also help with testosterone and keeping that high testosterone. Fitness is a huge part of that. Proper hormonal function is a huge part of that. So, as a chiropractor, I may sound a little biased, but if chiropractic is really about brain-body connection, then increasing the ability of the brain to control the body's production of testosterone. But there are also, foods that lead to higher T, and fitness is a big part of it as well. I mean, if you're just sitting on your couch, eating a pint of ice cream every night, thinking that it's just going to all be okay, that's probably not the case.
Probably not. Where does stress and sleep fit into the impact on men's sexual performance?
Oh my God, that's such a great question. I mean, stress affects us not only physically, but psychologically, right? And so much of our ability to perform sexually is psychological. So it really is twofold because when you're under a lot of stress, the body produces cortisol that shuts down sexual function, right? So that's a huge part of it, right? So this is why one of the four pillars is meditation or, just present time consciousness. So understanding our ability to maintain that present time consciousness and not be focused on the future and not be focused on the past, but to be right here, right now with our partner is such a huge deal. When, depending on what our thoughts create chemicals. Chemicals create reactions in the body and the way that we feel. So if we're constantly focusing on what's stressing us out and creating all that cortisol in the body, I mean, that's an erection killer right there. So super important. I think also for men, we're so focused on the physical when it comes to our sexual experiences. I think helping men understand what they're really doing is they're having a spiritual experience with their partner. That in a lot of ways, without sounding too esoteric, we're spiritual beings having physical experiences, and it's really the connection with your partner, regardless if it's somebody that you're just hooking up with for the first time, or somebody you've been dating for 6 months, or your wife that you've been with for 20 years. It's the connection in that moment that leads to a beautiful physical experience, right? Really being aware of your partner's needs and wants and desires and fears, and helping them get past that. And I think also what isn't really focused on a lot is the orgasm in general is a spiritual experience. It is a way to really be brought immediately into the present moment, right? Because when we're having an orgasm, we're not thinking about like any regret, like, oh man, I can't believe what happened yesterday. Oh, the laundry or the bills that I got to pay. We're right here, right now, even if it's just for a few moments, a few beautiful moments. And so in a lot of ways, you're helping your partner have a respite from the daily toils of the world and, how hard life can be, right? Is you're really bringing them to a place of immediate presence. So it's a beautiful experience that you can share that way. And so I think when we have that focus, it also takes a little bit of that stress away. I mean, we're de-stressing ourselves and our partners with that beautiful experience.
I love that. I think we're close to the end of the broadcast, but I wanted to try to squeeze another question in if I can.
No, please.
And please speak to, because you've been insightful to say the least. So thank you for being here, Dr.
My
Adams.
pleasure.
Firstly, thanks for making it not too clinical for people to understand. I'm an educated guy, but at the same time, I'm looking out for the audience, and you did a great job sharing something that's probably a little bit complex for any of us, men or women, to understand, perhaps. What would you say? No, my pleasure, sir. What would you say is just one takeaway? Please don't say stop eating meat. Is there one takeaway that you think for the men that are listening and watching today or following the replay that you think is a great first step to begin? I know talking to you would do great for them as potential clients, but just before that part, what do you think is one takeaway that, or one practical step they can start right now, right out of the chute, that won't be I guess maybe it won't be too difficult of a hurdle for them to jump over?
Yeah.
What would that be for them?
It's not about becoming vegan. It's not about starting to see a chiropractor.
Okay,
It's not about trying to be a bodybuilder or trying to become enlightened in the Himalayas in the middle of the mountains meditating, right? It's the focus on lifestyle 1% at a time. 1% at a time, because if we make these little changes, right? If we cut back on our animal consumption 25%, 50%, a little bit at a time, right? Having an open mind to experiment with different types of products, whether it's a vegan cheese or a vegan yogurt or a vegan steak or, all these different types of products that I've discovered over the years that help bridge you to a whole foods plant-based diet. But we're not telling people that they need to be vegan. We're not telling them they need to be in the gym 20 hours a week. But it's I think at the end of the day, it's understanding, like, just trying to create a little bit more discipline in your life and having it be well-rounded, so that you're really trying to address not only the physical, but the mental, the psychological, and the spiritual as well, all in a package, right? Taking a 5-minute break from work and just doing a walking meditation outside your office or in the garden or wherever it might be, 5 minutes, even 3 minutes, right? To give the brain a little bit of a break. Starting out with just like, hey, how many push-ups can I do? Like, I haven't exercised in forever. How about 10 push-ups to get started, right? And it's understanding that it's these little small incremental changes that are going to make huge changes over time, right? And if sexual performance is important to you as a man, and you want to be able to satisfy your woman, and you want to stay capable in that way as you start to get older, making these little small changes are going to lead to huge changes, and I think a lot more gratification and satisfaction in your own life and in the life of your partner.
Thank you very much. For you guys that are watching and listening, we have Dr. Adam's contact site up on the screen, sexualgenius.com. Should be easy for all of us to remember. It's not too hard. It's not sexualgenius.com for those that are listening and not watching. And of course, it's also in the comments section if you need to grab it again. You didn't catch that. But this is Dr. Adam Kleinberg. He's a clinician and the creator of Sexual Genius. Thank you so much for your time on doing this, man. It's been a fantastic conversation, to say the least. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, man. I just want to add a little bit about, Sexual Genius sounds so egotistical, right? Like, oh, sexual genius. But the genius part of it is understanding that the lifestyle changes lead to that type of capability. And that's where the genius really lies. Got it.
I don't think anybody thinks you're pretentious. If they watch this episode, they know that you're not. So that's. But thanks for sharing that. You're totally good in my book, man. What you guys are watching for the first time, thanks again for making us part of your week. We're asking Dr. Adam to follow us on all the social media platforms that he uses. So that way, when you guys have a question, I'm not in his place trying to answer the question. Not comfortable with that. Even if we're not talking about libido and erectile dysfunction and things of that nature. So please, as he follows us, if you have a question for me or for him and you don't find him, I'm happy to direct you. But Dr. Adam, follow us on all the socials if you don't mind doing that, so we can facilitate that kind of conversation. That'd be great. If you guys watching, listening, thanks again for making us part of your week. That's Dr. Adam Kleinberg. I'm Mr. U. Fantastic conversations on the overlooked key to male performance. Check in with him. He knows what he's doing. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Men's Roundtable Series, step inside. Real men, real faith, where the truths collide. Voices at the table where the stories get shared. Welcome to the Men's Roundtable, pull up a chair.